Hey guys, tonight we're taking on what might be the most peaceful and exclusive job in the entire ancient world, guarding a mythical orchard at the edge of everything. We're going to get you properly settled in, run through your orientation, and introduce you to your very unique colleagues. It's a position of immense trust, requiring patience, a gentle demeanor, and absolutely no ambition to steal divine fruit for personal gain. You'll also need to be comfortable working with large, multi-headed reptiles, so do bear that in mind. Honestly, given the mortality rate for most people who interacted with the gods, your chances of surviving the first week are questionable at best. But the benefits are literally divine. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to see where you're all tuning in from tonight. Go ahead and post your current location and your local time in the comments below. It's always amazing to see this little community stretching across the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your new job description was, to put it mildly, a bit vague. It spoke of a long-term guardianship role in a secluded, high-value orchard, with compensation listed simply as divine favor and eternal peace. It wasn't posted on a public forum or carved into the stone of the agora. It came to you in a way that defied simple explanation. Perhaps you found it as a single, perfect leaf, inscribed with shimmering text, resting on your pillow one morning when you awoke. Or maybe the words were whispered to you by the wind as it rustled through an olive grove, a specific set of instructions meant only for your ears. It's even possible you simply dreamt it, an interview conducted in a language of symbols and feelings, and upon waking, you just knew. You knew you had the job, and you knew, with an unshakable certainty, where you had to go to begin. There was no formal application. No list of previous experiences or references to provide. Your qualification was something quieter, something innate. It was a certain stillness in your spirit, a lack of greed in your heart that was, in the ancient world, a rarer commodity than gold itself. The client, whom you only knew through indirect messages and a powerful sense of being watched, was clearly not interested in your ability to wield a spear or wrestle a lion. She was interested in your capacity for stillness, your patience. In a world of heroes seeking glory, or Cleos, you were sought out for your profound lack of interest in it. The compensation package sounded much better than dental, but you had a sneaking suspicion there was no 401k match. Eternal peace could mean many things, and you decided it was best not to dwell on the more permanent interpretations. Your instructions for the contract signing were equally strange. You were to go to a small, forgotten temple on a cliff overlooking the sea at the next full moon. The temple was dedicated to a powerful goddess, one of marriage and queenship, whose name was spoken with a mixture of reverence and fear. You knew of her, of course. Everyone did. She was the formidable wife of the king of the gods, the matron of Olympus. The fact that this offer might be coming from her added a significant weight to the entire affair. This wasn't some minor deity looking for a gardener, this was a job at the very highest level of cosmic management. When you arrived, the temple was deserted, bathed in the soft, silver light of the moon. The air was cool and salty. There was no one there to meet you, no priestess, no grand reception. Instead, resting on the central altar, was a single, luminous tablet. It wasn't clay or wax. It seemed to be carved from a sheet of polished ivory, or perhaps solidified moonlight. The text glowed with a soft, internal luminescence. This was the contract. It was written in a script you didn't recognize, yet you could understand it perfectly, the meaning flowing directly into your mind. It detailed your duties, to watch, to tend, to protect. It spoke of the grove, the fruit, and the warden. It promised a life of serene purpose, far from the chaos of mortal affairs. It also contained clauses about discretion, loyalty, and the severe, cosmically significant consequences of failure. You tried not to think about the fine print, which was written in a language that made your eyes water and seemed to wriggle slightly if you stared at it too long. Probably standard legal boilerplate. Beside the tablet lay a stylus that seemed to draw its ink from the shadows in the corners of the room. You picked it up. It felt warm, alive in your hand. This was the moment of decision. To accept was to leave your known world behind entirely, to step off the map of mortal life and into the realm of myth. To refuse, well, refusing a job offer from the Queen of the Gods felt like a spectacularly poor career move. You took a deep breath, the scent of sea salt and ancient stone filling your lungs, and you signed your name. The characters flared with a brief, golden light, then faded into the tablet, becoming part of the original text. The tablet itself then dissolved into 1,000 tiny motes of light, which drifted out of the temple and dispersed into the night sky. The contract was sealed. You were now an employee. Part of your acceptance, though you didn't consciously know it, hinged on a concept the Greeks called miasma. This was a kind of spiritual stain or pollution that could be contracted through contact with death, childbirth, or by committing certain sacrilegious acts. Major temples had protocols for cleansing visitors of miasma before they could enter sacred spaces. Your selection for this role was, in essence, the result of a divine background check on your soul. You were found to be free of this spiritual dirt, possessing a purity that made you suitable for entering one of the most sacred and secret places in existence. It wasn't about being good or evil, it was about being clean, a vessel worthy of proximity to the divine. The first directive of your new employment appeared in your mind as soon as the contract vanished: go west. Just that. No map, no detailed itinerary, just a single, resonant command pointing you toward the setting sun. You were to walk until the mortal lands gave way to the lands of myth. This journey itself was part of the orientation, a long, meditative process designed to strip away the noise of your former life. You weren't given a magical horse or a flying chariot. You were simply to walk, to observe, to listen, and to let the world you knew fall away behind you, step by quiet step. Your acceptance of this role was also deeply rooted in the ancient tradition of divine patronage and gift-giving, a cornerstone of Hellenic culture known as xenia. This was the sacred duty of hospitality, but on a grander scale, it governed the relationships between mortals and gods. A gift from a god was a monumental event, binding the recipient in a pact of loyalty. The very treasure you were being hired to protect was itself the ultimate example of this. The golden apples were a wedding present to your new employer, Hera, from the earth goddess, Gaia, when she married Zeus. This wasn't just a piece of fruit, it was a symbol of the union between sky and earth, a foundational gift that established an cosmic alliance. Your job was, in essence, to guard the physical manifestation of a divine promise. No pressure. As you prepared to leave, you thought about the nature of this secluded, high-value orchard. The location of the Garden of the Hesperides is a matter that scholars, both ancient and modern, still argue about with considerable passion. The myths are consistently vague, placing it simply at the western edge of the world. Some ancient writers like Herodotus associated the location with the Atlas Mountains in modern-day Morocco and Algeria. Others suggested it was in Libya, or on some phantom island in the Atlantic, a place like the mythical Atlantis that has since sunk beneath the waves, taking its secrets with it. This ambiguity was intentional. The garden wasn't a place you could find on a map, it was a place you had to be worthy of finding. Its location was less a set of coordinates and more a spiritual state. Your journey west was not just a physical trek, but a pilgrimage toward a state of being where such a garden could exist. You gathered no supplies. The instructions in your mind were clear: you would be provided for. You simply turned your back on the moonlit temple, faced the dark horizon where the sun had vanished hours ago, and began to walk. You walked away from the scent of the sea, heading inland to begin a long, cross-country trek that would last for what felt like an eternity. With each step, the world of men, with its ambitions, its noise, its politics, and its fleeting concerns, seemed to fade. The air grew cleaner, the sounds of nature grew richer, and the stars above seemed to grow brighter, closer, as if you were walking up a gentle, continental slope toward the heavens themselves. This was the true beginning of your job, a long, slow, quiet process of leaving everything behind, becoming a blank slate upon which a new, strange, and profoundly peaceful reality could be written. The silence of your journey was your training manual, teaching you the patience you would need for the long, uneventful, and deeply soothing shifts that lay ahead, guarding the most precious fruit at the very edge of the world. Your commute had begun, and it was already the most important part of the job. Your first steps are unremarkable. You walk along a familiar dusty road, the kind you've walked 1,000 times before. In the distance, you can hear the faint sounds of a village settling down for the night, a dog barking, the low murmur of conversation, the clatter of pottery. But as you continue your unhurried, westward pace, these sounds begin to recede. It's not just that you're walking away from them, it feels as though the world itself is politely muffling its noise in your presence. The dog's bark is carried away by a sudden breeze, the murmurs soften into the chirping of crickets. The world is giving you space. You walk through the night, but you don't feel tired. The moon, your silent companion from the temple, seems to hang directly overhead no matter how far you travel, providing a gentle, silvery light to guide your path. When the dawn eventually comes, it's not a sudden, brilliant explosion of color, but a slow, soft blush of pink and rose that seeps into the eastern sky behind you, as if it's reluctant to disturb the tranquility of your journey. You find that you're never hungry or thirsty. A perfectly ripe pear will be hanging from a branch just as you begin to think of food, its skin cool and beaded with dew. You'll come across a spring of water bubbling up from mossy stones, so pure and cold it tastes sweet, and you know instinctively that it is safe to drink. This is the ultimate all-inclusive travel package, with a destination that's decidedly off-menu. Your only task is to keep placing one foot in front of the other, moving ever westward. Days bleed into nights and back into days again. You lose count. The concept of time, of marking its passage with sunrises and sunsets, begins to feel arbitrary and unnecessary. You are simply on the journey, and it will take as long as it takes. You walk through ancient forests of oak and pine, their canopies so thick that the sunlight dapples the forest floor in shifting patterns of light and shadow. You cross wide, rolling plains where the grass is so tall it whispers against your waist as you pass. You ford streams with smooth, grey stones and watch small, silver fish dart away from your ankles. You never encounter another soul. There are no bandits on the roads, no grumpy farmers telling you to get off their land, no chatty travelers asking where you're headed. You don't worry about getting lost. The internal compass provided by your new employer is more reliable than any star chart, and it seems to come with a built-in feature that repels unwanted conversations and awkward small talk. After what feels like a season has passed, you notice a distinct change in the landscape. The trees are different now. They are older, larger, of species you do not recognize. The flowers that bloom in the meadows are more vibrant, their scents more complex and intoxicating. The animals, the deer that watch you from the tree line, the eagles that circle in the sky, do not flee as you approach. They observe you with a calm, intelligent curiosity, as if they recognize you are not a threat, that you are on official business. You are passing out of the lands of man and into the lands of nature untroubled by civilization. The ancient Greeks, in their efforts to map the world, often filled the blank spaces with imagination. They told tales of the Hyperboreans, a mythical people who lived in the far north, beyond the reach of the cold north wind. It was said they lived in a land of eternal spring, spending their days in joyful celebration, free from disease, old age, and hard labor. As you walk, you feel as if you are passing through a Western equivalent of that legendary land. The air here is perfect, neither too hot nor too cold. The earth offers up its bounty freely. There is a sense of profound, undisturbed peace, a place that has never known war or strife. It is a land that exists in a state of grace, and as you move through it, some of that grace settles upon you, wiping away the last vestiges of your old life's anxieties. You eventually reach a mountain range, a colossal wall of dark stone that seems to scrape the heavens. There is no pass, no easy way through. But you feel no despair. You simply walk toward the sheer cliff face, and as you do, a path begins to form. A fissure in the rock widens into a the crack into a crevice, the crevice into a long, dark tunnel. You step inside without hesitation. The air within is cool and smells of damp earth and stone. It is not frighteningly dark. A soft phosphorescent moss, glowing with a gentle green light, illuminates your way. You walk for what feels like days in the quiet heart of the mountain, the only sound the soft echo of your own footsteps. When you emerge on the other side, the world is irrevocably different. The very quality of the light has changed. It's softer, more golden, as if the sun itself has mellowed. The sky is a deeper, more impossible shade of blue. You've crossed a threshold. This is no longer the mortal world, but its prelude. The laws of nature here seem more like polite suggestions. You reach a point where the very concept of geography seems to give up, as if the cartographer just sighed, drew a big line, and wrote here just be quiet on the edge of the parchment. This is the land of myth, the place where the stories come from. Your journey continues across this new, serene landscape. You walk along the banks of rivers that flow with water so clear it seems invisible, their beds lined with pebbles of agate and jasper. The winds that blow here carry the scent of blossoms that have never grown in a mortal garden. Everything is quiet, but it's a rich, full quiet, humming with a latent energy. It is the quiet of a library, of a sanctuary, of a place where important things are resting. You feel your own thoughts slowing down, the frantic internal monologue of your old life giving way to a simple, peaceful state of observation. Your purpose has been distilled to its purest form: get to the garden. Finally, you begin to hear a new sound, faint at first, but growing steadily as you walk. It is a low, constant, rushing whisper. It is the sound of more water than you can possibly imagine. After walking for another hour, you emerge from a grove of silver-leafed trees and stop. Before you lies the edge of the world. This is Okeanos, the great world ocean. Ancient Greek cartography, a field that was more philosophy than science, envisioned the known world Europe, Asia, and Africa as a large, flat disk. Encircling this entire landmass was a vast, endlessly flowing freshwater river, the source of all other rivers, seas, and springs on Earth. And you are now standing on its shore. It is not a violent, crashing ocean of salt water. It is a calm, immense, inexorable river. Its waters are dark, placid blue, flowing from left to right as far as the eye can see. Its far shore is not visible, lost in a golden, shimmering haze. It's a matter of some debate among ancient poets whether Okeanos was a literal river of water or a more metaphysical boundary between the mortal and the divine. Standing here now, you realize the answer is both. It is a physical body of water, and it is also the conceptual barrier at the end of reality. There is no boat, no bridge. But as you stand on the sandy bank, a single, flat stone, as large as a small raft, detaches itself from the shore and glides silently to your feet. It is a clear invitation. You step onto it, and it feels as steady as the firmest ground. As soon as you are aboard, it begins to move, carrying you smoothly and silently across the vast, dark waters of Okeanos. The journey is calm, the surface of the river like polished glass. You are leaving the world behind for good. As you travel, the golden haze on the horizon begins to resolve itself. It is not just mist, it is a glow, a soft, radiant light that seems to emanate from an unseen source. Beneath this glow, you can just begin to make out the shape of an island, a verdant green against the deep blue of the river. The air grows warmer, and it carries a new scent across the water, the fragrance of apples, but not any apple you have ever smelled. This scent is heavy, sweet, and intoxicating, with an underlying note that smells like honey, sunlight, and pure, unfiltered life. It is the scent of immortality. The stone raft bumps gently against a shore of pure white sand. You step off, and your feet sink slightly into the softest ground you have ever felt. The air hums with a gentle, musical energy. The light is golden and eternal, and the scent of the apples is all-encompassing. You have arrived. Your commute is over. You have reached the westernmost shore at the edge of the world, and before you, nestled in the heart of this perfect island, lies the gentle, glowing mystery of your new workplace. You take a tentative step off the white sand, moving from the shore of the Great World River onto the soft, mossy ground of the island. The air is warm and thick with the scent of apples and something else, something floral and ancient. The golden light you saw from across the water intensifies as you walk inland, pulsing gently like a slow, sleeping heart. It leads you through a grove of trees with silver bark and dark green leaves, their branches forming a natural archway above you. As you pass beneath them, you begin to hear it. Singing. It is not like any music you have ever heard. It is a harmony of three distinct voices, weaving in and out of each other, creating a melody that feels less like a song and more like the auditory equivalent of the golden light that surrounds you. It is a song of peace, of growth, of deep and abiding contentment. It pulls you forward, a gentle summons. You emerge into a large, circular clearing, and the source of the light and the music becomes clear. In the center of the clearing stands a single, magnificent tree, its branches heavy with softly glowing, golden fruit. And around this tree, tending to its roots and polishing its leaves, are 3 figures. Your new colleagues. Your orientation is being conducted by beings who look like they stepped out of a dream and sound like a wind chime recital. It's a far cry from the bored administrator you half expected from your last job. As you step into the clearing, the song does not stop, but one of its threads unwinds and seems to drift towards you. One of the figures detaches from the others and glides in your direction. She moves without walking, seeming to float just above the mossy ground. Her hair is the color of the sky just after the sun has vanished, a deep, dusky violet, and it seems to hold tiny, twinkling lights like the first stars of evening. Her dress is woven from the same twilight colors, shifting from deep blue to soft purple as she moves. Her smile is gentle and welcoming, and her eyes hold the calm, peaceful wisdom of a world that has never known hurry. "You are welcome here," she says, and her voice is the low, soothing melody you heard in the song. It is the voice of dusk, of things settling down to rest. "I am Hesperia. I am the keeper of the evening's gate. I am pleased you have arrived safely." She doesn't extend a hand to shake, but instead gives a slight, graceful bow of her head. You get the sense that a handshake would be a jarringly solid gesture in this fluid, ethereal place. Before you can formulate a reply, a second figure approaches, circling around you with a brighter, more curious energy. Where Hesperia was calm and dusky, this one is vibrant. Her hair is the brilliant red-orange of a spectacular sunset, a cascade of fiery color. Her gown is the color of saffron and rose, and her skin seems to have a warm, healthy glow. She radiates a gentle, life-giving energy, like the last warm rays of the sun on a perfect day. "And I am Erythea," she says, her voice a warmer, more vibrant harmony. It sounds like the feeling of fertile earth and the taste of ripe berries. "I tend to the roots and the soil. I speak to the lifeblood of this place." She gestures to the ground beneath your feet. It is good to have a solid presence standing upon it. The ground has missed the weight of a mortal footstep. Finally, the third figure turns from the tree and drifts over. She is the source of the most brilliant light. Her hair is the pale, dazzling gold of the sun when it touches the horizon, and it floats around her head like a halo. Her dress appears to be woven from pure, liquid sunlight, and her eyes are the color of warm honey. Her voice, when she speaks, is the highest and clearest of the 3, like the sound of tiny, crystal bells. "I am Aegle," she chimes. "The dazzling light. I care for the blossoms and the boughs, and I give the fruit its shimmer." She smiles, a brilliant, radiant expression that is not overwhelming, but deeply comforting. "We have been expecting you." The song had an empty space, a quiet note waiting to be filled. "That is you. These are the nymphs of the evening, the guardians for whom this garden is named." The exact number and names of the Hesperides are a subject of considerable debate in the ancient sources. Some historians like Apollodorus claimed there were 4, or even 7, with a host of different names. But here, in this timeless place, there are 3. Hesperia, Erythea, and Aegle. Evening, red, and dazzling light. And they are all looking at you with a serene and welcoming gaze. You quickly understand that these are not mere nature spirits, they are something far more ancient and powerful. You feel a sudden rush of understanding, another piece of your employment package, that they are the daughters of the Titan Atlas, the one who holds up the entire sky on his shoulders not far from here. Or perhaps their father is Erebus and their mother is Nyx, the primordial goddess of night herself. The truth of their lineage is complex and layered, but the conclusion is simple. They are beings of immense power and antiquity, far older and more fundamentally tied to the cosmos than many of the flashy Olympian gods who get all the attention. Your role here, Hesperia continues in her calming, dusky tones, is to be the anchor. We are like the light, the water, the song. We flow. We change. We are of the garden. You are to be the stone in the stream. Unmoving. Constant. Your stillness will provide the balance against which our own energy can safely flow. Erithia nods, her red hair swirling gently. You will watch. You will be a silent presence. The garden feels your quiet attention, and it brings it comfort. Your job is to be the silence in which our song can be heard better. It sounds poetic and deeply profound, though you suspect it also mostly involves just standing around quietly, which you're perfectly fine with. Aegle adds, her voice like chimes, your presence helps maintain the focus of this place. She gestures around the clearing. This garden is not merely a collection of plants. It is a nexus, a point of perfect equilibrium. Like the Omphalos stone at the heart of the world in Delphi, this garden is a navel of its own, the Omphalos of the West. It is the point of balance between day and night, land and sea, divine and mortal. Your steady, mortal heart, beating so slowly and so surely, helps to regulate it. They explain your duties in this way, through metaphor and poetry. There is no checklist, no list of key performance indicators. Your job is to simply be, to be present, to be calm, and to be observant. You are the audience for which the garden performs its silent, slow, eternal play. As they speak, their individual voices begin to weave back together into that single, beautiful harmony, so that the instructions come to you not from one of them, but from all of them at once, a single, unified consciousness. The primary rule, they impart with a gentle but firm clarity, is the one you already suspected. You may partake of any plant in this garden, their unified voice sings, the honey-sweet figs, the plums that taste of the night sky, the water from the spring of life. But the golden fruit of the central tree, that you must never, ever touch. It is not for us. It is not for you. It is a promise made of light and life, and its purpose is simply to exist. To guard it is to guard a divine idea. You get the distinct impression that the no-touching rule is the most important one. This seems rather obvious, given the divine retribution clause in your contract, but you appreciate the directness of the HR policy. They show you a small, simple grotto, carved into a hillside of living rock, furnished with a bed of the softest moss you have ever seen. This is to be your place of rest, should you ever need it. They show you the spring where the water of life bubbles up, cool and refreshing. They explain that time here does not pass in the same way. There is a day cycle, governed by Hesperides' gentle command of the light, but it is long, slow, and unburdened by the frantic pace of the mortal world. Your shift, they explain, is eternal, but it is also composed of countless, peaceful moments. Your only duty is to inhabit them, one by one. The three nymphs then turn and glide back toward the central tree, their song resuming its full, complex harmony. You are left standing in the golden light, the soft moss cool beneath your feet, the scent of immortal apples filling the air. You have met your new colleagues. You understand your role. There are no further questions. Your job is to be the quiet observer, the silent guardian, the mortal soul providing a point of stillness in a sea of divine energy. It is, you realize with a sense of profound and growing calm, the most peaceful job you could ever have imagined. Now, your official duties begin. With the Hesperides humming their eternal, soothing tune by the central tree, you are left to your own devices. Your one clear instruction is to watch, to be present. And so, you begin to walk. You take your first tour of your new, perpetual workplace, a slow, meandering exploration of the garden at the edge of the world. You start by walking the perimeter of the central clearing. The moss under your feet is like the finest velvet, a deep, vibrant green that seems to absorb all sound. You kneel and touch it, it's cool and springs back instantly, leaving no impression. You notice there are no weeds. Not a single one. No dead leaves, no broken twigs, no sign of decay or imperfection. The garden's maintenance plan is apparently flawless, and you make a mental note to ask Erithia for tips, should you ever return to a world with dandelions. Everything here exists in a state of perfect, continuous bloom. You wander away from the central clearing, following a path that isn't truly a path, but rather an intuitive route that seems to welcome your footsteps. You enter a grove of trees unlike any you have ever seen. Their bark is smooth and pale, like polished birch, but it has a faint, silvery sheen. Their leaves are not green, but a dark, dusky indigo, and when the golden light from the central tree strikes them, they do not reflect it, but seem to drink it in. The air under their canopy is cool and smells of rain and clean stone. Deeper in the shade of these indigo trees, you find flowers that provide their own light. They are shaped like wide, shallow bells, and they are a pale, lunar white. As you watch, one of them pulses with a soft, internal luminescence, like a firefly's glow, before fading again. Then another pulses, and another, in a slow, random rhythm. They are called moon petals, a name that simply appears in your mind, and their gentle, silent flashing is one of the garden's many quiet wonders. Unlike the practical gardens of men, which were often walled enclosures filled with orderly rows of beans, herbs for cooking, and fruit trees for produce, this place is a garden in the most sacred sense the Greeks understood. It is a temenos, a space cut off from the ordinary world and dedicated to the divine. Every plant here is a living offering, every path a form of meditation. It is not for sustenance, but for contemplation. You wonder if this is paradise. Whether the garden was meant to be a paradise in the way later cultures would conceive of it, or simply a divine, well-guarded treasure house, is a point of academic discussion. To you, in this moment, the distinction feels irrelevant. It is, quite simply, perfect. The sounds of the garden are subtle and layered. The dominant sound is always the distant, ethereal singing of the Hesperides, a constant, harmonic hum that forms the baseline of the soundscape. But as you listen more closely, you begin to pick out other noises. From a patch of tall, slender flowers with bell-shaped heads, you hear a faint, metallic chiming whenever a soft breeze passes through, a natural wind chime. There is the gentle murmur of the spring of life, which you find tumbling from a rock face into a perfectly clear pool. The water makes a soft splashing sound, a liquid percussion in the garden's orchestra. What's more remarkable are the sounds that are absent. There is no buzzing of annoying insects, no screech of predators, no rustle of anything fleeing in fear. The entire soundscape is peaceful, a carefully composed symphony of tranquility. The atmosphere itself feels different, tangible. The air is warm but never hot, cool but never cold. It rests on your skin like a silk cloth. There is no wind to speak of, only the gentlest of breezes that stir the leaves and carry the garden's complex perfume. You recognize the dominant scent of the golden apples, of course, but underneath it are layers of other fragrances. There is the sweet, heavy scent of a white, star-shaped jasmine that seems to bloom only in the shadiest corners. There is the clean, green scent of crushed moss and damp earth near the spring. And there is a faint, honeyed aroma that seems to come from the very air itself, a product of the divine pollen that drifts from a million perfect blossoms. The fauna of the garden is as gentle as its flora. You walk with a newfound lack of caution. There's no need to watch for snakes, or spiders, or treacherous roots. The entire place seems to have been meticulously safety-proofed by a divine, overprotective parent. The most dangerous thing here is the fruit you're not allowed to eat, which makes it the ultimate toddler-proof environment. The creatures that live here are part of the garden's deep peace. Butterflies with wings like stained glass windows flutter slowly from flower to flower. Small lizards with scales that shimmer like scattered jewels sun themselves on warm rocks, their eyes blinking slowly as you pass, utterly unafraid. A small bird with feathers the color of lapis lazuli and a breast of soft gold lands on a branch just beside your head. It looks at you with a bright, curious eye, and then it sings. Its song is not a simple chirp or a repetitive call, but a complex and beautiful melody that seems to pick up on the harmony of the nymphs and add its own tiny, brilliant counterpoint. It sings for a full minute, a private concert just for you, before ruffling its feathers and flitting away deeper into the foliage. Later, another bird, this one the color of a pearl, lands on your shoulder, sings 3 perfect notes that sound suspiciously like a phrase you once heard in a tavern, and then flits away as well. The wildlife here clearly has a sense of humor. You discover a small pond in a quiet corner of the garden, fed by a slow-moving stream from the main spring. The water is so still it is a perfect mirror, reflecting the indigo trees and the golden sky. In its depths, you see fish swimming. They are slow and graceful, their scales shimmering in shades of silver and gold, their fins like translucent silk. They swim in lazy circles, weaving between the stems of water lilies with pale blue flowers. There is no frantic darting, no competition for food. They simply exist, beautiful and calm, another perfect detail in a flawless composition. The entire garden exists in a state of unbroken tranquility, as if the gods have commanded the winds and the waves of the world to perpetually hold their breath in its vicinity. It reminds you of the myths of the halcyon days. The halcyon, or kingfisher bird, was believed by the ancients to build its nest on the surface of the sea during a 14-day period around the winter solstice. During this sacred time, the gods would magically calm the waters, ensuring the bird's nest would not be disturbed. This garden feels like a place of permanent halcyon days, an island of impossible calm in the vast, flowing river of Okinos that surrounds it. As your slow, meandering tour continues, you feel the tension of your former life, a tension you didn't even know you were carrying, begin to unknot itself. The constant, low-level vigilance of mortal life, the need to watch your step, to be wary of strangers, to worry about tomorrow, is simply unnecessary here. The garden invites you to let go, to lower your guard completely, to simply be. Your mind, so used to racing with thoughts and plans, begins to slow down, to match the unhurried rhythm of this place. You find yourself just standing for long periods, watching the light change on a single leaf, or listening to the intricate layers of sound, or simply breathing in the rich, life-giving air. This is the job. This is the guarding you were hired for. It is not an act of defense, but an act of deep, appreciative observation. By bearing witness to the garden's perfection, you are helping to maintain it. Your calm, mortal presence is the final, essential ingredient in this recipe for eternal peace. The tour isn't over. You get the sense it will never be over. You have an eternity to learn the name of every flower and the song of every bird, one quiet, peaceful moment at a time. Your slow, aimless wandering has brought you full circle. The gentle, intuitive path you've been following inevitably leads you back to the heart of the garden, to the central clearing where your colleagues, the Hesperides, maintain their melodic, watchful vigil. The golden light is stronger here, warmer, and the air is thick with the hum of their song and the tangible presence of profound power. You feel drawn forward, not by your own choice, but by the gravitational pull of the magnificent object at the garden's center. You are approaching the very reason for your employment, the centerpiece of this entire, secret world. You stop at the edge of the clearing, giving the three nymphs a wide berth. They acknowledge you with a slight, synchronized nod of their heads, their harmonies deepening for a moment before returning to their usual, ethereal pitch. They are a living, breathing security perimeter, but their presence is not threatening. They are simply part of the landscape of reverence that surrounds the tree. From this distance, you take the time to properly observe it, not as a piece of scenery, but as the primary subject of your long watch. The tree is larger than any you have ever seen, yet it does not feel immense or imposing. It feels perfectly proportioned for the space it inhabits. Its trunk is not covered in the rough, furrowed bark of a mortal tree. Instead, it is smooth and seems to be made of a substance that resembles ancient, polished bronze, with faint, swirling patterns that look like watered silk. It glows with a faint, internal warmth. The tree looks less like something from a biology textbook and more like a piece of high-end divine jewelry. You half expect to find a made by Gaia mark stamped discreetly on the trunk. Its branches spread wide, not reaching for the sky in frantic competition for light, but extending outwards in a graceful, welcoming canopy. They twist and turn in elegant, slow-motion curves, as if shaped over millennia by a gentle, artistic hand. The leaves are a vibrant, healthy green, each one perfectly formed, without a single blemish or ragged edge. And along the edge of every single leaf is a delicate, razor-thin border of pure gold, which catches the light and makes the entire canopy shimmer as if dusted with gold dust. But it is the fruit, of course, that commands your complete attention. Hanging from the boughs, nestled amongst the shimmering leaves, are the golden apples. You look at the perfect, glowing spheres and call them apples in your mind, because that is what the stories say. Yet, there's some scholarly debate as to whether the golden apples of myth were literal apples, a fruit not overwhelmingly common in ancient Greece, or perhaps another, more exotic fruit. Some suggest they were oranges, brought from distant lands, whose golden color and rarity would have seemed magical. Others propose they were quinces, a hard, fragrant pome fruit that was sacred to Aphrodite and featured in wedding rituals. To you, standing here now, they are simply themselves, beyond any mortal category. They are globes of pure, solidified light and life. There are perhaps 100 of them on the tree, each one the size of a large pomegranate. They are the source of the garden's eternal golden hour. They do not reflect light, they create it. Each apple emits a soft, steady, radiant glow, a warm, golden luminescence that pulses in a slow, barely perceptible rhythm. It's the rhythm of the garden's own heartbeat, a slow, deep, and steady beat that you can feel in the soles of your feet and in the quiet of your own chest. As you get a little closer, you notice more details. Their skin is not the waxy, imperfect peel of earthly fruit. It is a smooth, flawless surface that looks like spun gold, without a single mark or imperfection. They look heavy, dense, as if they are not filled with simple pulp and seeds, but with something far more substantial. They hang from the branches with a profound weight, pulling the boughs into gentle, downward arcs. You have the sense that if you were to pick one, it would feel as heavy as a solid gold ball in your hand. You dare to take another step closer, and a new sensation washes over you. There is a faint hum in the air, a low-frequency vibration that is less a sound and more a feeling. It is the sound of immense, contained power, the same feeling you might get standing near a sleeping giant. The air around the tree is charged, electric with latent energy. It makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. The overwhelming urge to just reach out, to feel the impossible smoothness of the skin, to feel its warmth and its weight in your own palm, is significant. It's the same primal curiosity that makes you want to touch a flame or peer over a high ledge. It's the feeling of seeing a button with a sign that says "Do not press." Your contract's severe cosmic consequences clause is doing some very heavy lifting right now, acting as a powerful mental counterweight to the fruit's silent, magnetic invitation. The scent is almost overwhelming. It is the fragrance you have been smelling since you arrived, but here at the source, it is infinitely more complex and powerful. The scent wafting from the fruit is what the poets must have meant when they described ambrosia, the food of the gods that granted them their immortality. It's a fragrance so rich and life-affirming that just breathing it in feels like you've had the most nourishing meal of your life. It smells of honey, of sun-warmed apricots, of 1,000 different flowers at once, but beneath it all is a scent that has no earthly equivalent, the scent of pure, undiluted life energy. It is a deeply tempting and dangerous perfume. As you stand there, mesmerized, another wave of innate knowledge washes over you, the history of this place downloaded directly into your consciousness. You understand that this tree was never a seed. It was a gift. It was the ultimate wedding present from Gaia, the primordial Earth Mother, the very embodiment of the planet, to the goddess Hera upon her marriage to Zeus, king of the gods. When the Lord of the Sky and the Queen of Heaven were joined, the earth itself offered this tree as a symbol of its blessing. It was a political gift, a symbol of fertility, of eternal life, and of legitimacy, a golden seal on the celestial union that brought order to the cosmos. This is not just a tree, it is a living monument to the founding of the current divine order. Guarding it is not just about protecting valuable property. It is about upholding a fundamental principle of the universe. The apples are not meant to be eaten, not by mortals, not even by most gods. Their purpose is to simply exist, to shine, to be a constant, beautiful reminder of that foundational promise. You realize, with a sense of dawning clarity, that these apples are almost entirely decorative. They are the ultimate, divinely commissioned centerpiece for the great dining table of the gods, and your job is to be the living, breathing "Please do not touch the artwork" sign. You gaze at the shimmering fruit, at the perfect leaves, at the bronze-like trunk, and a sense of deep peace settles over you. The temptation you felt moments ago subsides, replaced by a quiet sense of purpose. You are not here to desire the apples, but to appreciate them. You are here to witness their beauty, to feel their power, and to provide the simple, mortal stillness that allows them to shine without disturbance. You are the frame for the masterpiece. You take a deep breath of the ambrosial air, let it fill your lungs, and you settle in for your long watch, your eyes fixed on the gentle, golden pulse of the fruit at the center of the world. You stand your post for a long, peaceful stretch of time, simply observing the gentle pulse of the golden apples. The work is not demanding. It requires a quiet mind and the ability to stand still, two skills that are surprisingly difficult to master but which this garden actively teaches. As As your eyes trace the lines of the great tree's trunk for the 100th time, you notice something you hadn't before. You had assumed that the thick, gnarled shapes coiling around the base of the tree were its roots, exposed and ancient. But as you watch, one of the roots shifts, moving with a slow, fluid muscularity that is not at all root-like. Your eyes follow the shape. It is not wood. It is covered in a complex, mosaic-like pattern. You look closer, your mind calm and curious rather than alarmed. The pattern is made of scales, each one the size of your palm. They are not the shimmering, jewel-like scales of the pondfish, but muted, earthy tones, the deep green of moss, the grey of river stone, the rich brown of damp soil. What you had mistaken for roots is, in fact, a series of immense, coiled serpentine loops, perfectly camouflaged against the ground. The coils are so vast and still that they seem to be a part of the landscape itself. Slowly, carefully, you let your gaze travel up from the coils, tracing their path as they wrap loosely around the bronze-like trunk of the tree. And then you see them. It takes your mind a moment to process the sight, to accept the reality of it. Nestled among the lowest branches, resting in the crooks of the boughs, are the heads. Dozens of them. At first you think they are strange, reptilian fruits, but then one of them opens its eyes. They are old eyes, slitted like a cat's, the color of amber, and they blink with a geological slowness before closing again. This is your security partner. This is Ladon. Another download of your employment information clarifies the details in your mind. This immense creature is the famed dragon, the sleepless warden of the golden apples. He is a being of immense antiquity, a son of the ancient sea deities Phorcys and Ceto. This impressive lineage makes him a direct sibling of some of the most famous monsters in the Greek world: the Gorgons, whose gaze turned men to stone, the Gree, the three old women who shared a single eye and tooth, and Scylla, the terror of the seas. He comes from the original, much scarier, and far more chaotic security division of the cosmos, now semi-retired to this peaceful, permanent post. The exact nature of Ladon's 100 heads is, of course, a matter of mythological interpretation and poetic license. Standing here now, you see that 100 might not be a literal count so much as a term for an uncountable number. They are everywhere, woven into the structure of the tree. Some are large, the size of a grown man's chest, with small, mossy horns curving back from their temples. Others are smaller and sleeker, no bigger than your own head. They are not all identical, roaring monstrosities. In fact, the overwhelming impression is one of deep, abiding quiet. Most of the heads are asleep. One emits a soft, whistling snore. Another makes a low, rumbling sound, like distant, gentle thunder. A third murmurs quietly in its sleep, speaking in a sibilant language that sounds like rustling leaves. A few heads are awake, but they are completely still, their unblinking eyes fixed on different points of the horizon, a living, 360-degree surveillance system. There is no menace in their gaze, only a profound and patient watchfulness. You quickly start to categorize a few of the more prominent ones in your mind. There's the watchful one with the amber eyes, the sleepy one that's currently drooling a thin trickle of what looks like sap, the one that mutters about the weather, and your personal favorite, perched high in a branch, the one that seems to be silently judging your posture. It's like having 99 quiet, scaly roommates. The song of the Hesperides shifts, and a new layer of information is woven into the melody, meant only for you. It is your orientation for working alongside the great dragon. The protocols are simple and based on mutual, quiet respect. The first rule is no sudden movements. Ladon is not jumpy, but his peripheral vision is extensive, and it is considered polite not to surprise any of his 100 consciousnesses. The second rule is not to step on the tails. It is unclear where the body ends and the tails begin, so it's best to give the coils a wide berth at all times. The third, and most important protocol, is an understanding of his purpose. The nymph's song explains that Ladon is not merely a guard dog chained to a tree. He is a chthonic guardian, a being deeply connected to the earth. His presence is part of the garden's ecosystem. His great, heavy coils are like a living anchor, drawing protective energy from the soil and feeding it into the tree. His relationship with the tree is symbiotic, much like the great python who once guarded the sacred oracle of the Earth Mother at Delphi before it was taken over by Apollo. The health of the dragon and the health of the tree are one and the same. He is not just guarding the apples, he is part of them. The final protocol is about sustenance. Ladon is not to be fed. He does not eat. He draws his nourishment directly from the earth, and perhaps from the ambient magic of the garden itself. The thought of what one might even try to feed him is staggering. A herd of cattle, a school of tuna. The song communicates a sense of gentle amusement at the thought. Trying to give Ladon a snack would be like trying to give a mountain a sandwich. It would be pointless and slightly insulting to his self-sufficiency. As you absorb this information, the head you identified as the watchful one slowly swivels its long, serpentine neck to look directly at you. Its amber eyes lock with yours. There is no malice, no hunger, no anger. There is only a vast, ancient, and intelligent curiosity. It seems to be weighing your soul, measuring the stillness the Hesperides spoke of. It gives a slow, deliberate blink, a gesture of acknowledgement, of acceptance. It recognizes you as the other guard on duty. Then, with the same unhurried grace, it turns its gaze back toward the horizon. The interview is over. You have been approved by your partner. The main takeaway from your orientation on dragon handling is to treat him like a very large, very old, and very, very multi-headed cat. Let him be, don't make eye contact for too long unless initiated, and for the love of Zeus, do not try to rub his belly. Or any of his bellies. His presence, which should be terrifying, is strangely calming. He is a constant, a feature of the landscape as permanent as the mountains you crossed. His slow, rhythmic breathing provides a deep bass note to the nymph song. The sheer, immovable patience of the creature is infectious. He has been here for ages, and he will be here for ages more. His job is to be an immovable object, and he is very, very good at it. Your presence allows him to focus his many minds on the wider world, while you handle the close-up, detailed work of just being there. It is a perfect partnership. The great, silent, sleeping dragon and the quiet, observant mortal, together on the long, peaceful, eternal shift. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the garden's atmosphere signals the start of a new cycle. The eternal golden light, which had settled into a soft, dusky glow for a period of rest, begins to slowly brighten. It is not a sunrise, there is no rising orb in the sky. It is more like a dimmer switch being turned up with infinite slowness. The light intensifies from a warm amber to a brilliant, clear gold. Hesperia, the nymph of evening, has gently released her hold, allowing the garden to drift into its long, golden morning. It's the start of another glorious, uneventful day at the office. Your commute is a 10-second walk from your grotto, the coffee is non-existent but entirely unnecessary, and the first task on your divine schedule is a very, very slow walk. The music of the Hesperides changes key, their harmonies lifting into a slightly more energetic, though still profoundly calming, melody. Over by the great tree, you see a changing of the guard. A few of Ladon's sleeping heads stir and stretch, their long necks unfurling with a silent grace. A few of the previously watchful heads give a slow, sleepy blink and then settle down, tucking themselves into a comfortable coil. Different eyes, this time the color of jade, open to take over the watch. The dragon's immense consciousness is always awake, but it rotates the burden among its many minds, a model of efficient and well-rested security. This is the signal to begin your morning rounds. It is your primary duty, a slow-paced patrol to ensure that the garden's perfect peace has remained undisturbed through the resting cycle. You start on a path cushioned with fragrant chamomile, which releases a soft, apple-like scent with every footstep. Your slow, deliberate walk feels like a ritual in itself. In your old world, people would pour out libations of precious wine or fresh milk onto the earth to honor the gods and nourish the land. Here, you perform a continuous, walking libation, but the offering is not liquid. The offering is your focused, peaceful attention, a gift of pure consciousness that you pour out with every single step. The first thing you observe is the dew. Every surface in the garden is beaded with it, but this is no ordinary condensation. On the broad, indigo leaves of the silver-barked trees, the droplets are perfect, shimmering spheres, each one holding a tiny, distorted reflection of the golden apple tree. On the petals of the moon petal flowers, the dew has a pearlescent, milky quality, glowing with its own soft light. You gently touch a drop with your fingertip. It doesn't feel cold, but pleasantly warm, and it leaves a faint, tingling sensation on your skin, a feeling of vibrancy and life. You notice the dew has a faint, sweet taste, like honeyed water. You briefly consider bottling it as a potential artisanal health drink before remembering the don't mess with the inventory subtext of your entire employment. Your job is not to harvest it, but to observe its purity, to ensure it remains as clear and vibrant as the garden itself. As you walk, you begin to understand what you're looking for. You are checking for pests, but not the kind that chew on leaves or burrow into stems. The pests in this garden are metaphysical. They are intrusive thoughts from the outside world, carried on the psychic winds that blow across the great river Okinos. They are tiny imperfections in the garden's state of bliss. You are learning to read the mood of the garden, to sense its genius loci, its spirit of the place. It's a subtle skill you're developing. You can feel when one corner of the garden is troubled in the same way you might sense that a close friend is feeling down. It's a matter of debate among thinkers whether the Hesperides themselves were the genius loci made manifest, or if the garden possessed its own separate, overarching consciousness that the nymphs simply served as priestesses for. From your unique vantage point, it feels as though both are true. The nymphs are the garden's voice, and the garden is their collective body. Your role is to be its hands, its gentle, corrective touch. You come to a patch of the bell-shaped flowers whose petals normally chime with a clear, crystalline note. Today, their sound is slightly flat, a dull thud instead of a bright ring. You stop and focus your attention on them. You sense the pest that has afflicted them, a tiny, insignificant fleck of mortal jealousy, perhaps from some forgotten argument 1,000 miles away, that has drifted in and settled on the blossoms like a speck of dust, deadening their sound. You don't perform any grand ritual. You simply stand there, your mind calm, your breathing slow. You project a feeling of contentment, of quiet appreciation for the flower's beauty. You focus on the memory of their true sound. After a few minutes, one of the flowers sways in a phantom breeze and lets out a single, perfect, clear chime. Then another joins it. The pest has been cleansed. The resonance is restored. Your job description never mentioned spiritual pest control, but it makes sense. You're essentially a living, breathing pop-up blocker for bad vibes. You wonder if you can add that to your resume under special skills. You continue your patrol, moving deeper into a grove where the air is usually cool and serene. You notice a single leaf on one of the ancient trees has curled in on itself, a tight, unhappy-looking spiral. It is the only leaf on the entire tree to do so. The pest here, you sense, is a faint echo of a long-forgotten sadness, a ghost of a tear shed by someone, somewhere, long ago. It has found a home in this leaf, causing it to clench like a fist. You reach out and gently cup the leaf in your hands. You don't try to force it open. You simply hold it, offering it the warmth from your skin and the profound peace of your surroundings. You think of the steady rhythm of Ladon's breathing, of the beautiful harmony of the nymph's song, of the unwavering glow of the apples. You offer this feeling to the leaf. Slowly, over the course of several minutes, it begins to relax, uncurling with a soft, sighing motion until it is flat and open once more, its indigo surface smooth and untroubled. These are your duties. You are a metaphysical gardener. You walk the paths of this perfect place and you smooth out the tiny wrinkles you find in its fabric. You are not a warrior fighting off monsters. You are a librarian, ensuring every book is in its right place. You are a curator, gently dusting off the masterpieces. The work is slow, methodical, and deeply, deeply satisfying. With every minor imperfection you soothe away, you feel the garden's gratitude, a wave of pure, uncomplicated peace that washes back over you, leaving you calmer and more centered than before. Your morning rounds are not a chore, they are a form of therapy, for both the garden and for you. The day is young, the light is golden, and there are many more peaceful, pointless, and profoundly important things to check on. After your morning patrol is complete and the last metaphysical wrinkle has been smoothed from the garden's fabric, you feel a gentle, silent summons to return to the great tree. The Hesperides are waiting for you, their song shifting to a practical, instructional melody. It seems your duties as a spiritual janitor are concluded for now, and the next phase of your workday is about to begin. It's time for dragon care. You approach the immense, sleeping form of Ladon, who is coiled around the tree like a living mountain range. A few of his heads are still watchful and awake, but the vast majority are in various states of slumber. Herakles, the nymph of dazzling light, glides toward you, a small, folded cloth in her hands. She unfurls it and offers it to you. It is woven from a material that looks like captured moonlight and feels like cool, heavy silk. One of his eyes needs polishing, she chimes, her voice clear and bright. She points to one of the larger, awake heads, the one with the amber eyes that first acknowledged you. On its temple is a single, large, plate-like scale that is not a mottled, earthy color like the rest of its body, but a smooth, pearlescent white. Herakles explains that this specific scale on each of the watchful heads acts as a receptor for celestial light, starlight and moonlight, which helps to power their tireless vigil. A fine layer of ambient dust, composed of fallen pollen and time itself, can dull its connection. Your job duties have officially expanded to include draconic cosmetology. You're pretty sure this experience is not transferable to any other career, divine or mortal. Following Herakles' silent instructions, you approach the great head. It watches you come, its huge eye unblinking, but it makes no movement. It knows this routine. You stand beside its immense jaw and gently, slowly, begin to polish the pearlescent scale. The work is rhythmic and soothing. The surface is smooth and cool, like ancient marble. You wipe away the almost invisible layer of dust, and as you do, the scale seems to brighten, to absorb the garden's golden light more deeply. The dragon lets out a low rumble from deep within its chest, a sound of profound contentment, like a cat's purr amplified 1,000 times. You spend a good 20 minutes on this single scale, your motions slow and deliberate, until it shines with the soft glow of a perfect pearl. Next, Herakles, the nymph of the earth, gestures for you to look at a different part of the coiled mass. Here, two of the smaller, sleeping heads have, in their slumber, managed to loop their long necks around each other in a gentle, lazy knot. It doesn't seem to be causing them any distress, but it needs to be sorted out. This, Herakles' song communicates, is a common occurrence. You think of Ladon's infamous cousin, the Lernaean Hydra, which Herakles fought. The Hydra was a creature of pure chaos. For every one of its heads that was cut off, two more would grow in its place. It was a symbol of escalating, uncontrollable strife. Ladon, by contrast, is a model of internal cooperation. His heads are a community, but like any community living in close quarters, sometimes they just get a bit tangled up. It's like untangling a set of very expensive, very scaly, and very much alive headphones. The key is patience. Herakles shows you that you must not use force. Instead, she hums a low, resonant note, a sound that seems to come from deep within the earth. She encourages you to match it. You take a breath and hum the same deep tone. As the sound washes over the two tangled necks, the muscles within them visibly relax. The knot loosens on its own. You hum again, and one of the heads, still completely asleep, slowly retracts its neck, unweaving itself from its partner with a sighing, serpentine grace. The corporate team-building exercise is getting weird, but it is undeniably effective. Finally, Hesperides, the keeper of evening, draws your attention to a third matter. She points a slender, dusky finger at a medium-sized head that is twitching erratically in its sleep. Its eyelids are fluttering, and it lets out a soft, distressed hiss. It is having a bad dream. As you finish tending to the last of Ladon's subtle needs, you notice the golden light in the garden has reached its zenith. It is a warm, heavy, honey-colored light that seems to slow time itself, encouraging a period of profound stillness. The song of the Hesperides, your constant companion, fades into silence for the first time since the morning began. In the quiet, Herakles, the brightest of the three, turns to you and gestures with a graceful hand toward the spring of life. It is time for your lunch break. You join the three nymphs, sitting with them on a patch of moss so soft and thick it feels like a purpose-built cushion. There is no table, no formal setting. The meal is simple, communal, and deeply restful. You're having lunch with your bosses. The menu consists of light and water. It's the ultimate keto, gluten-free, paleo, divine entity-friendly meal plan. And, as you're about to discover, it's surprisingly filling. Erythea, the nurturer of the earth, dips cups woven from broad, waterproof leaves into the bubbling spring. She hands one to you. The liquid within looks like pure water, but it holds the golden light of the garden within it, swirling gently. This, you understand, is nectar. You take a sip. It is cool and clean, but it tastes faintly of every sweet fruit and fragrant flower in the garden, 1,000 flavors distilled into one perfect, refreshing draught. It quenches a thirst you didn't even know you had. While you drink, Herakles reaches up into the air and seems to gather the ambient golden light in her cupped hands. She kneads and shapes it, her fingers moving with practiced ease, until she holds 3 small, faintly glowing spheres. She offers one to you. This is ambrosia. The precise nature of ambrosia and nectar is a frequent subject of classical debate. Poets describe them vaguely, leaving scholars to argue whether they were a type of honey, a fungal growth, or some other exotic substance. Here, the truth is simpler and far more elegant. It is edible light. You place the sphere on your tongue. It doesn't melt, but rather dissolves, a fizzing, pleasant sensation that spreads a feeling of warmth, contentment, and profound energy through your entire body. It is the most satisfying thing you have ever eaten, and it leaves you feeling perfectly nourished but not at all heavy. As you share this simple, divine meal, the Hesperides begin to talk. It is not a conversation in the mortal sense. They communicate in a blend of thought and soft, humming harmony. It is a stream of information, of stories and observations, flowing directly into your mind, seasoned by their ancient, detached perspective. Today's topic is office politics. Specifically, the goings-on of their cosmic landlords, the Olympian gods. Listening to the Hesperides is like getting access to the oldest, most reliable, and most boring gossip column in the universe. All the facts, none of the breathless drama. It's a refreshingly dull take on divine affairs. They speak of their employer, Hera, with the deepest respect. They describe her not as the jealous, vengeful queen of myth, but as a meticulous and tireless administrator. They tell you of her vast archives, managed by the seasons, where she keeps a perfect record of every oath sworn, every prayer uttered, and every slight delivered in the cosmos. She is the ultimate bookkeeper of karma, and her ledgers, they assure you, always balance. They speak of Zeus, the Sky Father, with the weary fondness one might have for a powerful but predictable toddler. The head office was loud again this cycle. Hesperia's thoughts flow into your mind, her voice a low hum. There was a disagreement about the placement of a new constellation, and several thunderbolts were misplaced. It caused a dreadful fright among the dryads on Mount Ida. They don't speak of his power with terror, but as a recurring meteorological phenomenon that requires patience. They touch upon the other gods as well. Apollo, they explain, is currently embroiled in a very serious artistic debate with the muse of epic poetry, Calliope, over the appropriate use of a certain rhythmic meter. He wants to innovate, she insists on tradition. The disagreement has delayed the inspiration for 3 major epics and is causing a backlog in the mortal world. Hephaestus, the smith god, recently became obsessed with creating automatons that could peel grapes, a passion project that caused minor tremors across the Aegean when he tested the prototype's grip strength. They even share a story of a recent squabble between Ars and Apollo. They had another one of their tiresome disagreements over the tempo of a victory hymn. Hegel's thoughts chime in your mind. Apollo's plectrum, the little device he uses to pluck his lyre, accidentally scratched Ars's arm during a particularly dramatic gesture. There was a dreadful amount of ichor, you see. Ichor, the golden, ethereal blood of the gods. It stains marble so terribly. A terrible inconvenience for the local naiads who had to clean the temple floor. They speak of divine injury not as a dramatic wound, but as a maintenance issue. Their perspective is vast, their timeline immense. They were here long before the Olympians came to power. They remember the previous administration, the Titans. They speak of the Great Titanomachy, the legendary 10-year war between the Titans and Olympians, not as a glorious battle for the fate of the universe, but as a terribly noisy and disruptive period of management restructuring. They recall the chaos, the noise, the sheer inconvenience of it all. To the Hesperides, the Olympians are not the masters of the universe so much as the current, and rather loud, occupants of the corner office. They have seen regimes come and go. Their loyalty is not to a specific set of gods, but to the garden, to the tree, to the apples. The gods are merely their clients. This detached, ancient perspective is profoundly calming. The grand, terrifying, passionate dramas of the gods, the stories that mortals tell with fear and reverence, are rendered down into a series of mundane administrative headaches. It makes the entire cosmos seem less threatening, more like a large, complicated, and occasionally inefficient celestial bureaucracy. Your lunch break is the most relaxing and informative meeting you've ever had. As the meal ends, the Hesperides song slowly begins to weave itself back together, signaling it's time to return to your gentle duties, your mind filled with the quiet, undramatic truth of how the universe is really run. The divine meal of nectar and ambrosia concludes not with a formal end, but by simply fading. The conversation of the nymphs flows back into their song, and the perfect nourishment leaves you feeling energized yet deeply relaxed. The golden light of the garden softens from its midday peak, losing its brilliant intensity and shifting into a warmer, lazier, more honeyed hue. The long, slow afternoon has begun. This part of the day, you learn, is dedicated to the highest of all pursuits, purposeful idleness. In your old mortal life, leisure was a frantic attempt to cram enjoyment into the small gaps between obligations. Here, you come to understand the profound Greek value of skol, the ancient concept from which we derive the word school. To the philosophers, skol was not empty time, it was the essential, unoccupied time required for contemplation, for learning, for the development of the self. It was not downtime. In many ways, it was the most important work of all. And in this garden, the afternoon is one long, unbroken period of skol. One of your primary afternoon activities is cloud watching. But the sky above the garden of the Hesperides is not the turbulent, ever-changing sky of the mortal world. The great world river Okeanos that surrounds you seems to act as a barrier, preventing any terrestrial weather from intruding. The sky here is a vast, static canvas of deep, placid blue. The clouds are not formed of water vapor, but seem to be permanent, ethereal tapestries woven from remnants of primordial light and mist. They hang motionless, beautiful, and full of meaning. You find a comfortable spot on the moss, lean your back against the warm trunk of a silver-leafed tree, and you just watch. At first, you see nothing but beautiful, abstract swirls. But as the hours drift by, you learn to see the shapes within them. This isn't like finding a bunny or a face in a mortal cloud. The shapes here are far more profound. You're getting really good at cloud watching. Yesterday, you saw a vast, swirling nebula that you were certain was the image of primordial chaos before the world was born. To its left was a formation that looked exactly like a titan, bound in chains of softer, whiter mist. Another cloud looks vaguely like a divine serving platter. It's a Rorschach test for cosmic beings. You watch these unchanging clouds for what feels like an eternity, your thoughts slowing down until you are no longer thinking, but simply observing the silent, unmoving story of the heavens. The music of the Hesperides is the constant soundtrack to your afternoon. Their morning song was a bright, vital harmony, and their lunchtime communication was a complex stream of information. But their afternoon song is different. It is slower, deeper, and more intricate. There's an ongoing debate among mythographers about whether the Hesperides were solely guardians or if they also served as patrons of the arts, particularly the melancholic and beautiful forms of music and poetry associated with twilight. Listening to them now, you are certain the latter is true. This is their practice time, their time for artistic expression. They weave harmonies that seem impossibly complex, telling long, wordless sagas. You hear the story of Nyx, the great goddess of night, giving birth to her children, sleep and death. You hear the sound of the mountains being formed, a deep, grinding bass note from Erythea. You hear the melody of the first stars being hung in the sky, a shower of bright, chiming notes from Aegle, all underpinned by the steady, dusky drone of Hesperia's voice. You are becoming a connoisseur of their music, able to distinguish their individual parts and appreciate the heartbreaking beauty of their collaboration. Sometimes, to fill the quiet hours, you work on developing a new skill. Erythea, seeing your idle hands, taught you how to weave the long, supple blades of the silver-green grass that grows near the spring. It is a meditative, repetitive task. Your fingers, at first clumsy, have become nimble. You weave intricate bracelets and small, decorative mats. The grass feels cool and smooth, and the simple act of creating a pattern, of bringing a small bit of order to the wildness, is deeply satisfying. You leave your creations on rocks and branches, small, temporary offerings to the beauty of the garden. On one of your walks, you discovered a large, flat-topped stone, half hidden beneath a flowering bush. Etched into its surface is a perfect grid of lines, an ancient game board. The Hesperides explain, through their thoughts, that it is a place for Petea, an ancient game of strategy, a forerunner to chess. One afternoon, Hesperia glides over, holding 2 handfuls of smooth, flat river stones, one set of a dark, basalt black, the other of a milky, quartz white. She invites you to play. The game is slow, deliberate, and deeply strategic. The rules are simple to learn but take an eternity to master. You play a game of strategy against a being who has been alive since before the invention of the concept of strategy. Your win-loss record is, to put it mildly, not great. Her moves are patient, subtle, and seem to anticipate your own thoughts. She never gloats in victory, simply giving a slow, gentle smile when she finally traps your last piece. But she seems to genuinely enjoy your unpredictably mortal moves, the occasional illogical or emotional decision that adds a spark of chaos to her perfect, ancient logic. The games can last for what feels like days, each move punctuated by long periods of silent contemplation. And sometimes, your afternoon hobby is simply listening more closely to your partner, Ladon. You have learned to distinguish the unique sound of each of his sleeping heads. You can now identify the soft, whistling snore that comes from the small head with the single, mossy horn. You can pick out the deep, wet, gurgling rumble that belongs to the ancient head coiled nearest the spring. It is a completely pointless skill, but it brings you a sense of familiarity and connection to the great beast. Your list of hobbies has become deeply strange. You're an expert grass weaver, a grandmaster of losing at divine board games, a connoisseur of dragon snores, and a semi-professional watcher of motionless clouds. You're building a very peculiar and very peaceful life for yourself. The afternoon drifts on, a slow, golden river of time, carrying you gently toward the evening. The slow, golden river of the afternoon is flowing peacefully on when, for the first time since your arrival, the tranquility is broken. It is shattered by a sound so alien to this place it might as well be a screeching fire alarm. It is the sound of a loud, confident, unapologetically mortal voice. It's someone asking for directions, booming with a cheerfulness that is borderline aggressive in the profound quiet. The peace of the garden doesn't just break, it winces. You sit up from your cloud watching, your heart beating just a little bit faster for the first time in what feels like centuries. The Hesperides song falters, turning into a discordant, anxious hum. Over by the great tree, Ladon stirs. Not just 1 or 2 heads, but all of them. 100 pairs of ancient eyes snap open at once, a silent, unified alarm. You look toward the edge of the garden, the direction of the sound, and you see him. He is huge, a mountain of muscle and sun-bronzed skin, clad in the pelt of a great lion, its snarling head worn as a helmet. He carries a massive club of olive wood and a bow. He looks utterly, completely out of place, like a construction vehicle parked in the middle of a sacred shrine. He strides into the garden with an air of absolute self-assurance, his heavy sandals crushing the fragrant chamomile and silencing the chiming bellflowers with every step. He is not observing the garden's beauty, he is conquering it, walking through it as if it were simply an obstacle on his map. You realize with a dawning, weary sense of recognition who this must be. This is the great hero, Herakles. And he is here on business. You recall the stories. This is the final, most difficult of his 12 labors, assigned to him by his cousin, King Eurystheus. He has been sent to fetch the golden apples. From the perspective of the mortal world, he is a hero on an epic quest. From your perspective, sitting here on the moss, he is a state-sanctioned burglar with a divine warrant, and he is ruining a perfectly good afternoon. The Hesperides flow toward him, their forms shimmering with distress. They do not attack, but try to use their ancient magic, weaving illusions, attempting to lead him astray down confusing paths, singing melodies designed to lull a mortal mind into a stupor. Herakles, with a cheerful and complete lack of subtlety, simply ignores it all. He seems immune to their magic, his mind too focused on his goal to be waylaid by beauty or trickery. He bats away an illusionary wall of vines as if it were a cobweb and continues his determined march toward the central tree. He stops when he sees Ladon, fully awake, coiled protectively around the trunk. The dragon is not roaring or breathing fire. He is simply there. All 100 heads are raised, watching the intruder with a silent, unified, and deeply unimpressed stare. The collective weight of that gaze, 100 lifetimes of ancient patience turned to cold disapproval, would have sent any lesser man fleeing in terror. Herakles just leans on his club and sizes up the situation. How Herakles actually acquired the apples is a point of significant mythological variance, with poets and playwrights offering different versions to suit their dramatic needs. Some violent, bloody tales claim he killed Ladon with his bow, a dreadfully messy and unlikely affair that would have surely violated numerous divine environmental protection acts. The truth, you now see as it unfolds, is both simpler and far more reliant on outsourcing. Herakles, realizing that fighting a 100-headed dragon who is also a fundamental part of the local geography is a logistical nightmare, resorts to his backup plan. He cups his hands around his mouth and bellows a name: Atlas. The sound echoes unnaturally in the quiet garden. A few moments later, there is a deep, groaning sound from the mountains beyond the garden, and the ground trembles slightly. A figure appears, even larger than Herakles. It is the great Titan, Atlas, his face etched with the weariness of ages, his shoulders stooped from his eternal task of holding up the sky. He is the father of the Hesperides. A tense negotiation begins. Herakles, using his booming, friendly voice, makes an offer. If Atlas will retrieve the apples for him, since he is the nymph's father and presumably knows the security protocols, Herakles will take over his burden and hold up the sky for a little while. From where you sit, it looks less like a heroic bargain and more like a very dodgy back-alley deal. Atlas, tempted by the thought of even a few moments of relief, reluctantly agrees. Herakles jogs over to the edge of the mythical world, and you watch the handover. The hero braces himself, his famous muscles bulging. Atlas, with a groan of immense relief, transfers the weight of the celestial sphere onto Herakles' shoulders. The sky wobbles precariously for a moment, and you feel a strange, lurching sensation, as if the whole world has just tilted on its axis. From here, the great feat of strength looks less like a moment of epic glory and more like someone who has dramatically overestimated their ability to help a friend move a very, very large and poorly balanced piece of furniture. Atlas, now free, walks into his daughter's garden. There is a sad, quiet exchange. He speaks to the Hesperides in a low, rumbling tongue. He speaks to Ladon, whose heads lower slightly in a gesture of reluctant acknowledgement. This is not a battle. It is a family matter, a sad necessity. The nymphs part, their forms drooping with sorrow. Atlas approaches the tree and, with a heavy heart, plucks 3 of the golden apples. Just 3. He doesn't pillage the tree, he takes the bare minimum required to fulfill the request. He returns to the waiting Herakles, who is now sweating profusely and grunting under the immense strain of the heavens. Atlas shows him the 3 apples. Then, with the cunning of an ancient being, he employs what must be the oldest trick in the book. Here, just hold these for a moment while I adjust my shoulders, he says. Then I'll take the sky back. The hero, not known for his sharp intellect, agrees, and for a brief moment, Atlas is free of both burdens. In a classic whoops, forgot my keys maneuver, the Titan simply picks up the apples and wishes Herakles the best of luck with his new, permanent job. After a moment of panicked shouting from the hero, Atlas is persuaded to take the sky back. The entire incident feels less like an epic myth and more like a poorly executed cosmic insurance scam. Herakles, now free and in possession of the 3 apples, gives a cheerful wave, causing several more priceless flowers to wilt. He turns and strides out of the garden, his job done, leaving behind a trail of crushed foliage and a deeply disturbed sense of peace. The unpleasant interruption is finally over. As Herakles' booming footsteps fade into the distance, a profound and ringing silence descends upon the garden. It is not the rich, peaceful quiet of before, but a hollow, bruised silence. The air, once humming with contentment, now feels thin and anxious. The entire garden seems to be holding its breath, shocked by the loud, clumsy intrusion. You look at the great tree, and the 3 empty spots where the golden apples once hung feel like missing teeth in a perfect smile. The unbroken perfection has been broken. The Hesperides are gathered together near the spring, their luminous forms slightly dimmer than before. They are not weeping, but their harmonies have been replaced by a low, mournful hum, a wordless song of sorrow and violation. Aegle, who is usually so bright, seems muted, her light soft and sad. Erythea strokes the moss on the ground as if to soothe it. Hesperia, the calmest of the 3, simply stares at the empty spaces on the tree, her expression one of deep, ancient melancholy. Ladon is engaged in a slow, methodical damage assessment. His many heads are in motion, but it is a slow, deliberate survey. One head gently nudges a crushed bellflower, letting out a soft hiss of disapproval. Another sniffs the air where Herakles stood, its forked tongue tasting the alien scent he left behind. A third head is examining the deep footprints in the chamomile patch, as if documenting them for evidence. He is a silent, 100-headed detective, surveying the scene of the crime. You are now taking a statement from a 100-headed dragon and 3 light nymphs. Your career path has taken a very strange turn into divine insurance adjustment. You know your duty. While they process the emotional and draconic aspects of the incident, your job is to help with the cleanup. You walk the path of the intruder, your own steps light and careful. You gently straighten the stems of the chiming flowers he trampled. You smooth over the patch of moss where he and Atlas performed their cosmic exchange, a patch that feels psychically stressed and unhappy. With your calm presence and focused attention, you begin your work as a metaphysical custodian, cleaning up the emotional residue left behind by the hero's passage. After a long period of silent assessment, Hesperia turns to you. Her thought flows into your mind, calm but firm. A record must be made. An incident report must be filed. You realize this is standard procedure. The Garden of the Hesperides is not just a garden, it is a sacred thesaurus, a divine treasury. Like the magnificent treasuries built at holy sites like Delphi and Olympia to house the precious offerings of city-states, this garden houses the most precious offering of all. A breach, especially an unauthorized withdrawal of assets, requires meticulous documentation for the celestial auditors on Mount Olympus. You are to be the scribe. Erythea finds a large, perfect leaf from a broadleaf tree you have not seen before. It is smooth and pale, with the texture and flexibility of fine vellum. Aegle provides the instrument, a long, sharp thorn from a flowering bush, and for ink, she dips its point into a single, shimmering drop of the morning's divine dew. The act of preparing these simple tools feels strangely formal and important, like an Athenian citizen scratching a politician's name onto an ostracan, a shard of pottery, to cast a vote of exile. It is a mundane tool for a cosmically significant act. You sit cross-legged on the moss, the leaf spread before you. The Hesperides gather around, their thoughts providing the details. You begin to write, the dew ink flowing from the thorn in glowing, golden characters. Incident report number 001, first recorded breach. Date, the afternoon cycle of the 12th labor. Reporting parties, the Hesperides, Aegle, Erythea, Hesperia, guardians in charge. Assisting witness, the mortal guardian, present. Reviewing warden, Ladon, the 100-headed. Intruders details, Herakles of Tiryns. Class, demigod, unsanctioned. Parentage, Zeus, Olympian, Alcmene, mortal. Stated purpose of intrusion, fulfillment of labor number 12 for King Eurystheus of Mycenae. Note, this sounds much more professional than writing was sent by his mean cousin to steal our fruit. Method of entry, unannounced trespass via the western approach. Bypassed standard deterrence through sheer lack of subtlety. Assets compromised, 3 units of grade A golden apples of immortality. Collateral damage, 1 patch of Camomilla nobilis, crushed. Multiple stems of Campanula sonorus, chiming bellflowers, silenced. Significant disturbance of ambient tranquility and a severe breach of the garden's scroll. Temporary, unauthorized transfer of the celestial sphere, resulting in minor cosmic instability. Incident summary. Intruder gained access and, upon being confronted by Warden Ladon, declined direct engagement. Intruder utilized Titan-class assistants, Atlas, father of the reporting parties, by exploiting a loophole in celestial burden-bearing protocols. Atlas, under duress and temptation of temporary relief, retrieved the assets. Herakles then secured the assets and vacated the premises. Recommendations: a full review of the celestial burden protocols is strongly advised to prevent future exploitation. Recommend issuing a divine cease and desist to King Eurystheus. As you finish the last glowing word, you look down at your work. It is a perfect, bureaucratic summary of a myth, stripping it of all its glory and rendering it down to a simple, factual report of trespass and theft. You wonder what will become of the apples. Whether the stolen fruit would retain its divine properties once removed from the garden's sustaining aura is a subject of deep theological debate. Some scholars argue they would turn to inert dust once they crossed the world river, while others believed they retained a portion of their power. You have a suspicion they'll just end up as a very fancy, very indigestible paperweight on a king's desk before being quietly returned by a more sensible deity like Athena, who often had to clean up the hero's messes. To file the report, Hesperia instructs you to place the leaf gently into the spring of life. You do so, and the leaf does not float. It dissolves into a cloud of glowing, golden particles that are drawn down into the heart of the spring, sent on their way to the higher authorities. With the report filed, a sense of closure begins to settle. The garden, as if on cue, starts to heal itself. The sad, mournful hum of the nymphs begins to find its harmony again, soft and tentative at first, then growing in strength. The golden light, which had seemed pale and watery, deepens and warms again. Ladon, his investigation complete, gives a great, collective sigh from his 100 heads and begins to coil himself back into a resting position. The bruised feeling in the air dissipates, replaced by the familiar, gentle peace. The garden is resilient. The incident is over. It is now just a memory, and a filed report. With the incident report filed and the garden's equilibrium restored, a new kind of peace settles over the landscape. It is a deeper, more resilient tranquility, the kind that comes after a fever has broken. The memory of the disruption makes the return to normalcy feel all the more precious. The afternoon, which had been so rudely interrupted, resumes its slow, golden course, but you can feel it drawing gently to a close. A new change is coming. It begins with the light. The brilliant, honeygold of the afternoon begins to deepen, shifting slowly into a rich, coppery bronze. This is the domain of Hesperia, the nymph of evening. Her voice, which had rejoined the others in a song of recovery, now takes the lead. The melody softens, slows, and deepens into a resonant lullaby that washes over the garden like a gentle tide. She is singing the day to sleep. This transition is like the world's most beautiful and bespoke light show, personally choreographed by your boss. It's a company perk you could really get used to. Under the influence of her song, the garden transforms. The brilliant gold of the apples does not vanish, but it is muted, as if Hesperia has tucked a dusky, translucent veil over the entire tree. The ambient light shifts from bronze to a warm, rosy pink, the color of the inside of a seashell. This then deepens into a soft, velvety lilac, which in turn melts into a profound and peaceful indigo. You watch, mesmerized, as the world is painted in the colors of twilight. As the sky darkens to a deep, cloudless violet, a single, piercingly bright point of light appears in the west, directly over the spot where the sun would have set in the mortal world. It does not twinkle. It shines with a steady, serene, silver-white light. This is Hesperus, the evening star, the planet Venus in its vespertine phase. Its arrival is the official marker that the day cycle has ended and the night cycle has begun. You understand the connection immediately. Hesperia, your gentle guide to the evening, is named for this moment, for this beautiful, solitary star. She is its earthly counterpart, its keeper. The entire ecosystem of the garden responds to her call. The daytime birds have long since fallen silent, retreating to their nests. But a new chorus awakens. From the reeds near the pond, you hear the gentle, rhythmic chirping of silver-backed crickets. From a high branch in a shadowy tree, the soft, questioning hoot of a starlight owl echoes, its call a perfect, mellow fifth above the cricket's chirp. The sounds of night here are not frightening, they are a soft, soothing symphony. The flora transforms as well. The moon-petal flowers, which had pulsed with light during the day, now open fully and emit a steady, gentle, white glow, illuminating the garden paths like a series of perfectly placed nightlights. And from tucked-away corners of the garden, new flowers, which had been tightly closed all day, begin to unfurl. You think of them as stardust lilies. Their petals are the deep indigo of the night sky, and spattered across them are tiny, glittering flecks of silver, like constellations. As they open, they release a new fragrance into the air, not the sweet, fruity scent of the day, but a spicier, more mysterious perfume of night-blooming jasmine, sandalwood, and cool stone. You feel your own internal rhythm shift as well. The doing part of your day, the patrols, the pest control, the dragon care, the incident report is over. Your role in the evening is simply to be a quiet, appreciative witness to the garden's nocturnal beauty. You find your favorite spot, a large, smooth stone near the edge of the pond that has absorbed the warmth of the day's light and now radiates a gentle heat. You sit, your back against a tree trunk, and you watch. Ladon, too, has settled into a deeper state of rest. The majority of his heads are now sound asleep, their breathing a collection of deep, slow, bass rumbles that vibrate through the ground. Only 3 or 4 heads remain awake, their eyes glowing softly in the twilight, their watch more relaxed, their movements even slower than before. The peace that settles over the garden is so deep and absolute, it makes the earlier afternoon tranquility feel like a wild, chaotic party. The quiet here has levels, and you are now entering the expert tier of serenity. In this profound calm, your mind feels clear and expansive. You look out over the still, dark water of the pond, which reflects the evening star and the glowing flowers like a perfect mirror. You ponder the garden's place in the grand scheme of things. You are at the westernmost edge of the world, on an island in the great river Okeanos. The stories say that not far from here lie the Elysian Fields, the Isles of the Blessed, the final resting place for the souls of heroes and the virtuous. The distinction between the Garden of the Hesperides and the Elysian Fields is often blurred in ancient texts, a geographical and theological puzzle that scholars still contemplate. Is this garden a part of that paradise, or a separate, more exclusive suburb? You muse that your new address must be something like One Garden Path, the Blessed Isles, next door to Elysium. The mail service is probably terrible, but the neighborhood is truly outstanding. The peace here is not the peace of the dead, but a vibrant, living peace. It is the peace of perfection, of life untroubled by strife or decay. You sit there for hours, watching the slow, gentle dance of the glowing flowers and the silver crickets. You listen to Hesperia's deep, continuous lullaby. The disruption of Herakles' visit now seems like a distant, half-remembered dream. The garden has absorbed the shock, healed the wound, and returned to its natural state of grace. In fact, the peace feels even deeper now, more precious for its brief absence. You breathe in the cool, spicy night air and feel a sense of contentment so profound it borders on bliss. This is your job. To sit here, to watch, to listen, and to be the still, human heart in the center of a perfect, sleeping, magical world. The evening deepens, the twilight colors of Hesperia's domain finally giving way to the profound, velvety dark of deep night. Her lullaby does not cease, but it softens into a nearly subsonic hum, the barest whisper of a melody that underpins the immense silence. The garden is now lit by 1,000 tiny, soft points of light, the gentle glow of the moon-petal flowers, the shimmer of the stardust lilies, the distant, serene fire of the evening star, and the cold, ancient light of the constellations. It is time for your final duty of the cycle, the night watch. You rise from your warm stone by the pond and begin one last, slow patrol. Your footsteps make no sound on the mossy ground. The air is still and cool and carries the spicy scent of the nocturnal blossoms. This walk is different from your morning rounds. It is not for maintenance or pest control. It is simply to confirm the peace, to be a single, conscious presence moving through a sleeping world. You are the night watchman in the most peaceful building on earth. With the brilliant glow of the golden apples now softened to a gentle, ember-like warmth, the sky above opens up in all its glory. You have never seen the stars like this. There is no haze, no mortal light pollution, no atmosphere to make them shimmer. They are steady, hard points of diamond fire scattered on black velvet. The celestial light show is so spectacular, it makes you feel deeply sorry for anyone trying to do astronomy from a mortal city. They are missing the entire point. You look up, and the familiar shapes of the constellations are rendered here with an impossible clarity. Whether the ancients saw these star patterns as mere pictures or as the actual, literal transformed bodies of mythical figures is a matter of some interpretive debate. Here, under this perfect sky, it feels less like a debate and more like an obvious truth. The constellations are alive. You can see the faint, glowing outline of Orion the Hunter, his club raised, forever chasing the 7 starry sisters, the Pleiades. You see the proud, regal shape of Cassiopeia, lounging in her celestial chair as her eternal punishment for vanity. And then you see him. Winding his way between the great and little bears is the constellation Draco, the dragon. Its long, serpentine body is a chain of pale, cold stars. According to some myths, this is Ladon himself, cast into the heavens by Hera to honor him after he was slain by Herakles. You look at the starry dragon above, and then your gaze travels down to the base of the great tree, where the real, living Ladon lies coiled in sleep. It's a strange, cosmic doppelganger moment, seeing the memorial portrait hanging in the Hall of Heroes, right above the subject of the portrait while he's taking a long nap. The myth of his death was clearly just one version of the story, and apparently not the one that stuck. As you walk, surrounded by this immense, silent majesty, you become aware of something else. In the absolute absence of earthly noise, you can almost hear a sound that is not a sound. It is a faint, impossibly deep hum, a series of perfect, resonant harmonies that seem to exist just on the edge of your perception. You realize what you are sensing. It is the musica universalis, the music of the spheres. The ancient Pythagoreans believed that the celestial bodies, in their perfect, mathematical orbits, created a constant, divine harmony, a sound too perfect and too constant for mortal ears to perceive. But here, in the protected silence of the garden, you can just begin to feel it. It is the sound of the cosmos breathing, the silent song of the universe going about its eternal business. Your patrol takes you past the sleeping inhabitants of the garden. You peer into the clear water of the pond and see the golden fish hanging motionless in the dark water, their fins gently stirring, lost in their own deep, watery slumber. You see the jeweled lizards tucked into the crevices of warm rocks, their vibrant colors muted in the soft starlight. Everything is at rest. You approach the great tree. The 3 empty spots are still there, a reminder of the day's disruption, but the remaining apples glow with a soft, steady, reassuring light. They look like sleeping embers in a divine hearth. And coiled around the base is Ladon. For the first time, you see him in a state of complete rest. Every single one of his 100 heads is asleep. The watchful amber eyes are closed. The jade-green eyes are closed. Even the one that silently judges your posture is now tucked away, its critical gaze finally averted. His watch has been passed to you. You realize that in this moment, in the deepest hour of the garden's night, you are the sole conscious guardian of this sacred place. The nymphs are resting, their song a sleeping hum. The dragon is in a deep, 100-fold slumber. It is just you. The performance review for this part of the shift is presumably pass-fail, with exceptionally high stakes. But you feel no fear or pressure. You only feel a profound sense of trust, and a quiet, humble pride. You have been deemed worthy of this responsibility. You complete your circuit of the garden, your heart filled with the silent, whispering music of the stars. You have seen the sleeping world in its perfect, unguarded innocence. You have confirmed that all is well. Your long, eventful, and deeply peaceful shift is finally drawing to a close. The night is deep, the air is still, and a sense of profound, bone-deep weariness, the good and satisfying weariness of a day's work well done, begins to settle over you. Your final patrol is complete. The profound quiet of the garden and the silent, wheeling majesty of the stars have worked their final magic on you. A deep, bone-deep weariness, not of stress but of profound contentment, settles into your limbs. Your long shift is over, and the pull of your simple moss bed is now an irresistible, gravitational force. You turn from the star-dusted clearing and make your way, slowly and silently, back to your grotto. The entrance is a low, dark archway in a hillside, wreathed in faintly glowing moon-petal flowers. You step inside, and the air becomes even cooler, carrying the clean, pleasant scent of damp stone and rich earth. The grotto is your sanctuary, a space entirely your own within this divine garden. The only light comes from the entrance and from a few seams of the same phosphorescent moss that lit your way through the mountain tunnel, casting a gentle, green-gold glow on the stone walls. And there is your bed. A thick, wide mattress of the deepest, softest moss in the garden, nestled in a natural alcove. It looks impossibly inviting. All the day's responsibilities, filing reports, checking for metaphysical pests, dragon grooming, feel like tasks on a to-do list that belong to a person who existed a very, very long time ago. Your only current responsibility is to this moss bed, and it's a duty you are more than eager to fulfill. You lie down, and the moss yields to your weight, embracing you. It is more comfortable than any bed ever made by mortal hands. It is cool and soft, yet perfectly supportive. You make a sleepy mental note to try and leave a 5-star review on whatever divine travel site your employer uses. You close your eyes. The day begins to play back in your mind, but not as a sharp sequence of events. It is a slow, drifting collage of sensations. The taste of nectar on your tongue. The feeling of the moon-woven cloth as you polished Ladon's scale. The sound of the deep, resonant hum you used to untangle his sleeping necks. The memory of Herakles is no longer an annoying disruption, it's a faint, absurd image of a large man sweating under a wobbly sky, a comical tableau that has lost all its urgency. The incident report you so carefully wrote feels like paperwork from another life. The sounds of the garden filter into your grotto, but they are muted, softened, woven into a single, gentle tapestry of sound. Hesperides' deep hum, the chirping of the silver crickets, the faint hoot of the starlight owl, the almost imperceptible music of the spheres, it all blends together into one, perfect, cosmic lullaby. It is the sound of absolute safety. You feel a new presence in the grotto. It is not an intruder, but a silent, welcome guest. It is a soft, gentle weight on your eyelids. A quiet touch on your forehead that unravels the last of your tangled thoughts. You feel sleep arriving not as a state you fall into, but as a being who has come to visit. It is Hypnos, the quiet, gentle god of sleep, twin brother to death, but so much kinder. He is a much gentler boss than Herakles, and his only demand is that you stop thinking. You happily, gratefully comply. The exact relationship between Hypnos, the god of sleep, and the Oneiroi, the spirits of dreams, is a matter of poetic interpretation, whether he simply delivers the quiet that allows them to enter, or actively crafts the visions himself. As his soft, irresistible influence settles over you, you do not wonder about such things. You simply accept the profound gift of rest he offers. Your last coherent thought is of the golden apples. You see them in your mind's eye, not as a treasure to be guarded, but simply as soft, warm, golden lights, pulsing gently in the darkness. They are the night lights of your new home. Your consciousness begins to unmoor itself. You feel as though you are floating, drifting gently up from your moss bed, out of the grotto, and into the cool night air. You are not flying, but simply, diffusing, your awareness spreading out to become one with the garden's peace. You are drifting now into the realm of your neighbors, the Oneiroi, the dreammakers who live just beyond the veil of waking. Your long, soothing shift at the edge of the world is over. You have done your job well. And now, you sleep. And so, you too can begin to drift. The gentle, green-gold light of the grotto begins to fade now, replaced by a soft and comforting darkness. The story is over, and all that is left is the deep and abiding peace of the garden at night. Feel the soft, cool moss beneath you, supporting you completely, allowing every muscle in your body to release, to let go. There is nothing left for you to do. No reports to file, no patrols to walk. Your work is done. All that is required now is to rest. The sounds of the garden begin to fade. The distant chirp of the crickets grows softer and softer until it is gone. The low, humming lullaby of the nymphs becomes a single, steady, calming note, and then it too dissolves into the immense quiet. You are floating now in a sea of perfect, silent tranquility. The air you breathe is cool and clean, carrying the faintest scent of starlight and sandalwood, a calming perfume that signals to your body that it is safe, that it is time for deep, restorative rest. Think of the great dragon Ladon, his 100 heads finally at peace, his slow, steady breathing a deep, calming rhythm for the whole world. Match your own breathing to his now, a long, slow breath in, and a long, slow, complete breath out. Feeling your own body grow heavy, safe, and still. Every breath you take draws in more of the garden's peace, and every breath you exhale releases the last little bits of your own day, the lingering thoughts, the remnant worries. They are not important anymore. They drift away like specks of dust, cleansed by the pure, quiet air of this magical place. The last lights of the garden are fading now. The soft glow of the golden apples, seen from a great distance, becomes a single, warm, pinprick of light. The brilliant evening star becomes a soft, blurry glow. The vast, starry sky slowly dissolves into a soft, velvety darkness. There is nothing left to see, nothing left to hear, nothing left to do. You are safe. You are at peace. And you are drifting deeper, and deeper, into a comfortable, well-deserved sleep. Your long shift is over. It is time to rest now, time to rest, to rest.